Hey guys, what is going on? This is your old pal CHH. Today we're talking about my favorite director of all time, George A. Romero. And the movie we're talking about is his 1993 Stephen King movie adaptation of The Dark Half. Now, this is from Vinegar Syndrome, and if you saw my previous video talking about this whole deal with Vinegar Syndrome and the way they kind of do stuff with their website, you know that right now, at the time of this recording, a lot of the Vinegar Syndrome stuff is not available because they have to shut down their sales to be able to get all their subscriber stuff out. So I got mine from Orbit DVD. So just shout out Orbit DVD. But anyway, listen, when it comes to Romero's catalog, I asked this earlier on social media, like, what do you think is the last great, George Romero film? Now, I would not say Bruiser is great, but I do love it. Now, you could say that The Dark Half could possibly be it, and others could say it's before this. It could be Monkey Shines. It could be Day of the Dead as his last great film. George's career spans from the 60s all the way up into the 2000s, and he's done a lot of movies. He has different eras of movies. For me, I think the last truly vintage and possibly great film from George Romero is The Dark Half. I really enjoy The Dark Half, and watching it on this 4K was quite an experience. So if you haven't seen The Dark Half, there's no reason for me to spoil it, but I do want to tell you guys what this movie is about. We have Thad Beaumont, a writer who has very much successful novels, but he's under a pseudonym. He doesn't go by his real name, but George Stark is the character who he uses to publish his books, which are these sleazy, kind of trashy thrillers that people love. All of a sudden, word gets out that Thad Beaumont may in fact be George Stark. So he gets ahead of this by telling the press, hey, I am George Stark. And a lot like the promotion of Freddy's Dead, where they have a fake funeral for Freddy, well, Thad has a fake funeral for George Stark to kind of bury the character now that it's out. The reason he did this is because somebody was going to hold him up for a bunch of money. He could conceal his own identity. So that's why he was like, screw it, let's just go out to the press and let's get ahead of it. I'm not going to let somebody extort me for my own money. Screw that. Things take a dark turn after this when, there are these killings happening around Thad that are very much similar to this George Stark character from his books. And the whole movie basically begins from there. What's going on? Why is it happening? The interesting thing about this is sometimes it seems like Stephen King's movies take a while before they come films, but I believe The Dark Half got adapted very, very quick. I think the novel came out in the very late 80s. It might have even been 1990. And then the movie came out in 1993. So, I mean, a very quick turnaround. There wasn't much, space between the book and the movie. I have not read the book, admittedly. I have had people say that the book goes into a lot more details and it's a lot more intricate with the story. But the movie, I felt it was pretty straightforward. I mean, I like the movie a lot. The thing I like about this movie is it feels like that truly, to the bone Stephen King movie. Small town, real people, and there's something going on. It affects everybody in the small town. It feels very much like a Pet Sematary type of movie, or maybe even like a Firestarter type of film, where you believe in this world that Stephen King has created. That's what he's the king at, no pun intended, is creating these little worlds that feel real, and people are affected by what's going on in a realistic way, even if what's going on isn't exactly realistic. That's something that's kind of lost nowadays, and I applaud Stephen King for being able to do that. And listen, I think George did a great job directing The Dark Half. I really think that the movie came out really great. The question is it a great horror film? Here's the thing. I really like it. But The Dark Half is not a movie I would tell people, oh, you got to put this one on when you want to have this crazy night. You want to watch something explosive. The Dark Half is a very quaint, cozy little horror film. It's not a movie that's going to get your gears worked up. It's not a movie that's going to be explosive the way something like A Return of the Living Dead is. I just use that as a reference because that is my favorite horror film. But The Dark Half is a movie that's cozy. You kind of sink into the couch a little bit more, and it's a movie that moves at a moderate pace. But that's what I love about George, is his movies don't fly, and they're not also very, very slow. At least not his 80s and 90s stuff. His 70s stuff, you could argue, is a little bit slower, and some of his stuff like Season of the Witch. But this movie moves at a nice, moderate pace. As soon as something you feel needs to kind of happen, it happens. I really love the characters in this movie. This is a great, I would bet money this is a great Stephen King novel. I'd probably enjoy reading it if I ever get around to it. The movie is good. The only questions, or the only problems I should say I have with it, is the runtime is a little bit long. A 122-minute feature presentation. Okay, so maybe it's just the standard way the movie was released, but 122 minutes, that is I think that's close to 2 hours, right? It's close to it. If it's not, it's a long movie. It could be trimmed down probably a little bit, but from what I understand, the book is even more intricate. So it may be a pretty big book if I ever get my hands on it. I like the twists and turns about this. I don't really feel it's necessary to get into this because I want people to see the movie above anything else. But I like the twists and turns in this, and it just feels like a cozy little Stephen King movie. So I enjoy it. I think George did an amazing job directing this movie. It looks really, really good. I love the places that they used to film this. Truly felt like a small town. And it's a good movie. It's a good Stephen King movie. It's not an all-time classic like Pet Sematary, but I think The Dark Half would be a fun movie to watch with like Needful Things. That'd be a great double feature. Or take The Dark Half and like Graveyard Shift and put them together. Those kind of cozy, fun little Stephen King movies that just they work, but they're not like the main event type of Stephen King movies, in my opinion. So there you have it. So guys, this movie had a Scream Factory Blu-ray, and it went out of print fairly fast. Now, I think you could have gotten some overseas release. It might have been Indicator or Umbrella. I don't remember at this time. But it was pretty cool to see it come back in print, and to see what Vinegar Syndrome did is pretty damn impressive. I mean, this release is really nice. Now, I almost say that with stuff like this, I almost would say it's not really necessary, possibly even worth it to get the special versions of this. It just depends on how much you really love the movie. The reason I got is because I knew, because this is a George Romero film, I love talking about his films. I wanted to show you everything you can get with this nice release, if you're inclined to do so. If not, there's nothing wrong with just getting the standard version of this. We'll talk about it. But here is the box that it comes in. I love this. It's very metaphorical to what happens in the movie without getting into too many spoilers. But the artwork's really cool. Here's the back. It kind of continues. Very, very nice. We do get a booklet. Now, here's the booklet for The Dark Half. And, oh yeah, it's got that strong smell. Now, I was flipping through this. Now, you guys know, like, I think a lot of us like the books. You know, you've got all the cool stories and behind-the-scenes stuff. This one, you know, has a lot of cool writings in here. You got great pictures from the movie. And you know how the books go. So we'll kind of keep it right there for that. And I love the twins in this movie. They got a really cool set of twins. So there's the book for The Dark Half. Now, what else we get in here is this right here. Again, I like how they incorporated a lot of stuff from the movie in almost a literal sense for the packaging of this. This is a slipcover. And like I said, if you watch the movie, this will all make total sense to you. And here's the back. You've got the other writing, and what I love is the original poster with that purple and the face in there. And of course, I flipped it to that. Otherwise, you could have it look like this if you wanted to. But I love this image, so I flipped it to this. Based on the book by Stephen King, written for the screen and directed by George A. Romero. Now, obviously, that wasn't the first time George and Stephen worked together, so I think they probably had a really good relationship. This movie does have this release does have a Blu-ray, of course, which I like to pop them in just to kind of look them over. First off, the 4K for this looked absolutely phenomenal. The 4K was a 9.5 out of 10. Just looked fantastic. Like most Vinegar Syndrome stuff, I always give them credit there. Their restoration work is second to none. And it's very even. A lot of the stuff I see from Vinegar Syndrome with their 4Ks, they always have a great even look. So, and the Blu-ray looked fantastic as well, which is a beautiful thing, because if you're not a 4K person, you're still going to get an absolutely gorgeous image from this. Now, there's a lot of special features on here, and we'll kind of look these over. Of course, we've got the film in Dolby Vision HDR, newly scanned and restored from the camera negative. We got a 5.1 and a 2.0, and a commentary track with George Romero. I listened to the 2.0. I love the 2.0. We also have the Blu-ray disc with My Roots with Romero and an interview with first assistant director Nick Mastandrea, a merchant ivory cameraman in Pittsburgh, an interview with cinematographer Tony Pierce Roberts, Shadows of the Past, Locating the Dark Half, a featurette of the shooting locations of The Dark Half, George Romero and the City of the Living Dead, excerpts from a 1991 broadcast at WQED, Pittsburgh's local PBS station. I listened to that. That was fantastic. The Sparrows Are Flying Again, a making-of documentary from 2014 with writer-director George Romero, special makeup effects creators Everett Burrell and John Vulick, visual effects supervisors Kevin Kuchaver, actor Robert Joy, editor Pasquale Buba, and even more. And I believe that was probably on that Scream Factory Blu-ray, if I had to guess. I don't have it, but because that was from 2014, I believe that's what it was from. which means it was a very early Scream Factory release if it was on there. Archival making of featurette from the EPK, archival interviews with the electronic press kit, behind-the-scenes footage, deleted scenes, storyboards, TV spot, and original trailer. So, guys, that is The Dark Half. Like I said, if you like this movie, or if you haven't seen this movie, it's definitely worth owning. I think it's a classic. I think it is the last truly vintage and/or classic George Romero film. The question is, do you want to get the special edition? These aren't exactly cheap. I got this, like I said, because I knew I was going to review this. I wanted to show you guys the full presentation of what you can get. But if you haven't seen the movie and you're not sure if it's something you're going to love, you could always stream the movie. I'm sure it's available to stream to get for a couple bucks, maybe even see it free. Most of you guys know how to use the internet, if you know what I mean. And then decide if you enjoy it. You know, this is going to be back whenever Vinegar Syndrome gets their stuff back on the site. If not, you know, you could get just a standard release. Maybe you'll say it's a pretty good movie, but I don't want to spend the money to get the special release. You can order it standard, which is another cool thing that Vinegar Syndrome does, is give you the ability to order it in a standard way. So there you have it, guys. That is my review for the 4K of The Dark Half. I'd give that release a 9 out of 10. Pretty damn happy with it. It looks phenomenal. Looks absolutely phenomenal, guys. So that's going to be it for now. This is your old pal CHH. God bless you guys. Let me know your thoughts on The Dark Half down below, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.